Both of us were sitting with our backs deep in the place, looking at the front door, just eating
chicken,
Dajaj, having a good time, living it up in old Baghdad.
Hey everybody, this is Billy Graff with the Chaos Project. We're glad you're here today. I've got my buddy Bear, my bodyguard.
How you doing, guys? How you doing, Chap?
Man, I'm doing awesome. How you?
Pretty good,
Doesn't
man.
look like you worked out today. You're looking kind of babyish.
I appreciate that. It does wonders for my self-esteem.
We've got a great guest, and I think that today is going to be the greatest day.
I like it.
This is going to be the best podcast conversation we've had.
I can get on board with that.
Oh, well, tell us who you brought today, Mr. Bear.
I have Blake Babyface Gibson.
Wow. Okay.
What's going on, brother? I appreciate you doing this.
Babyface.
Yeah. No, I'm glad to be here. Yeah. Yeah, it's been a long time coming.
Yes. I know we talked about this, man. We're excited to get you on here today, share some stories, and just chop it up. I consider you part of my tribe. It was kind of funny how we actually met each other.
Yeah.
We met through your sister, and in a good way.
Right.
Right. When you say that, it usually has a negative connotation.
Right.
But Blake's sister is a VSO, and she does a lot of good work. She operates her own nonprofit, and I started talking to her about some things, and she was like, "Man, I'm gonna hook you up with my brother." And now we've, we became fast friends. We started talking. We set in a couple veterans groups together ourselves, and we just had a lot in common, man.
Went to the range. Oh yeah.
Who was the best shot?
We all had fun.
We all.
It was pretty good. It was pretty good.
Fun. We all had fun.
I like guys that are going to make me better.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So, man, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Childhood, military. Man, I'll shut up and let you talk.
All right. Yep. Born and raised in Texas, just southeast of Houston and LaPorte. Single father, raised me and my brother, and mainly spent the summers at my granny and grandpa's. They had a 100-acre ranch out in Alvin.
That's nice.
A lot of G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
A lot of running through ditches when heavy rains would happen. A lot of outdoors experience. About junior high, moved to Colorado, spent a couple years up there. Great experience, learned to ski and snowboard and get into trouble, and moved back to Texas for high school. I was in JROTC. I was the first freshman to be accepted onto the rifle drill team. That was really cool.
Yeah.
My older brother was on the drill team when he was in ROTC, so to do that, that was a pretty big accomplishment. But didn't really have the focus and discipline to stick to all of that goodness. Dropped out once, thought about it.
Yeah.
A couple months later, re-enrolled, and it was like a half-baked moment. Just stood up halfway in class, like, don't like you, a lot of curse words, I'm out of here. So dropped out for a second time.
Oh my goodness.
Started working construction, following in my father's footsteps. Just familiar, good pay. Bringing in $1,000 a week as a 17-year-old.
Oh, wow.
It's not bad.
Good money.
Yeah.
Not bad. A lot of overtime.
That could run you.
Well, had I invested it, it would have been a lot better. But I just gave it all to the bars. the bars that would let a 17-year-old drink.
17. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they were thankful for it.
Yeah. And I'm sure they're all closed down now, so there's no use to investigate who they were.
Right.
COVID took care of that.
Right.
So.
Right. And then, working in the chemical plants, it was risky. So you have exposure to chemicals, exposure to different hazards and falls and explosions. And then one day there was a flare release, and that's just where they burn off excess material. But there was many flares were going off, so there was a high potential for an explosion. And I'm sitting there looking at all these flares, 7,500 feet shooting up in the air, all these flames, and I just thought, if I'm gonna die, I'm gonna do it for something fun. I liked to play G.I. Joe when I was a kid. I was in ROTC. Let me go ahead and join the Army.
Okay.
Let me do that. So I did. 1999, went to the Fort Benning School for Wayward Boys. Became an infantryman and got a first duty assignment in Germany.
Very nice. Where were you stationed at in Germany?
In Baumholder, Germany, the Rock. A lot of good times there. I was there for about 5 years. Yeah. Got married, first kid, then came down on orders for drill sergeant as an E5. And we moved to Fort Sill, Oklahoma, the land that God forgot.
Has he found it yet?
I haven't been back to check up on it. I did 3 years there, and got close to the end of my third year, and I still hadn't come down on orders. So called branch and the human resources, and said, asked them where my orders were, and said, well, you don't have enough enlistment time to get orders, so you're staying there. Well, okay, well, I need to enlist. I need to re-enlist. So discussed my options. And of course it was Fort Drum, Fort Polk. No, I'll be all right. I'll be all right. I'm still re-enlisting, but I'm not doing those. A couple weeks later, same thing, Drum or Polk. No, you got anything else? Of course not. Okay, well, I'm going to hold out a little bit longer. Then they came back with Hawaii or Germany again.
Much better selection.
Boy, that was worthy of a familial discussion, not a coin flip.
Right.
Fortunately, we decided on Hawaii. I was there stationed there for 4 years. I was actually there for less than 2. Had 2 deployments with them. Went to Iraq once, which was my second time, and then Afghanistan. That was a lot of fun. And then came down on orders. Well, wife started getting homesick. She's German, and wife at the time, she's German, and so I worked HR again, worked branch again, and found a duty assignment in Germany that was a special duty assignment. It was not a typical infantryman assignment, but got on with a group called DTRA, and did a lot of fun with that organization, and made it back to Germany for another 4 years. And while towards the end of that deployment or assignment, I had gotten the blanket generic notice from the old guard. Everybody gets, you get emails from different special organizations saying you perfectly meet the criteria for joining our elite organization, right?
Right.
The old guard is one of those. You are at least 6 foot tall. You have at least an aptitude score of this. This. You're perfect.
You're perfect.
You're perfect.
Yes.
So I thought, I've never really thought about that. I've known people who were there. I had a first sergeant who showed me the special way they do facing movements. It was kind of interesting, very ceremonial. And I thought, I'll just fill out this application. And it's a seven-page application to include what type of tattoos you have, your history, physical abilities, and all kinds of stuff. And didn't think anything of it. Sent it off. About 2-3 weeks later, somebody called me and said, "Hey, you got orders." Oh no, where? Because I hadn't planned on anything. And so they said, "You're going to Fort Myers with an S." So I looked up Fort Myers. First thing that came up was Florida.
Okay.
I saw white sand beaches and called
Looking
them back
good.
and I
Looking
said,
good.
I said, take it, accept it. And went downstairs, actually looked at my orders. It said Fort Myer, and it said museum was part of it. Museum? What the heck? So I did a little more research and figured out it was the Old Guard.
Oh.
There's a lot of historic stuff there, so it's considered TOG, the Old Guard Museum, on the orders. Went to the Old Guard, and I was a caskets platoon sergeant for a while. And before you can even do ceremonial activities, you have to pass a series of tests with sword work, saber work,
Folding, I'm sure folding.
folding,
Yeah.
standing still. There's
Right.
I believe it's a 45-minute position of attention test.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah. No, you're there. You're stuck.
Bro, one thing I wanted to ask you about, and I didn't know that you were in the Old Guard. I heard they had named 1911s. Is that true?
Oh, that's the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier.
Okay, different?
So it's still part of the Old Guard, but that's later on in my Old Guard career.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was a caskets platoon sergeant, which means I was the platoon sergeant for 3 groups of casket bearers who would bring Army veterans to their final resting place. And so there were 2 standard funeral teams and then 1 full honors funeral team. And they would practice daily to perfect their craft and to make sure they know what they're doing. Big emphasis on working out so you're not struggling.
Right.
You have to look very solid and stable.
Nobody wants to drop a casket, bro. That's like the worst thing that could happen. At my dad's funeral, man, they played the wrong music. Like, you don't get a do-over.
Right.
Right. So you have to get it right the first time.
Right. There's a lot of imperfections that are played off that people don't see.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
Fortunately, because it's a very, very important time for
Absolutely.
the family members and the honor of the fallen veteran. There was one time where you're walking in close proximity as you're carrying the casket, and someone had what we called giving somebody a flat tire. They stepped on the heel of the person in front of them, and as they continued forward, their foot came out of the shoe.
Yeah, but they kept moving.
You would not even know that it happened had it not been for a slight dip. And even then, they tried to stay upright.
Right.
All of the unit members could see and they could tell what happened, but it was at such an angle you couldn't see feet. And, it was very well done.
Hey, that reminds me of about 10 years ago. So I was getting very interested I did a lot of funeral work as a pastor.
Right.
And but I ran up against these guys right here, and we actually created it. They had already created it, but it was an honor guard, and they had a DOD connection with one of the bases, and we got firearms with blanks, obviously. But it's really hard for retired guys and older fellas to actually have military funerals in a way that we look at military funerals.
Yeah.
And so this group of men, all they did, funerals. That was their thing.
Yep.
A bunch of retired fellas. All brand new uniforms are supplied, and we did hundreds of funerals. And we did 3 volley. Didn't always get 7 in the volleys, but
Sure.
sometimes it was only 4 or 5, depending on who could show up. But we practiced a lot on how to get that tight pop, pop, pop.
Right.
So not just, we didn't even let anybody do the flag. And this is not even active stuff, active guys, But we took that, you're burying one of your brothers or sisters.
Yeah.
We took it serious.
Oh,
It's a very serious moment.
yeah. To have the old guard is basically my last duty assignment. Was a huge honor to close out a 20-year career.
Right. Yeah. It's hard emotionally. But
You have to flip a switch.
yeah, definitely.
You have to flip a switch.
Yeah.
There was there's no emotion that's supposed to be given. I, as the casket platoon sergeant, I was in charge of passing the flag to the next of kin, and you're naturally supposed to remain stoic and professional.
Yes.
And not show any emotion and just be very reverent of the situation. And there was this one day where this cool breeze, this is in Arlington, so it was a little cooler this one day, and the group of men on either side of the caskets created this channel for the wind to go directly into this eyeball. And it was blowing and blowing, and I could feel my eyes start to water, and I'm thinking, no, I'm not being emotional. I'm not. This is the wind. I have no control over this, and I'm trying to blink it away, and it's just building up and building up. And right as they finish folding the flag, they pass it off to me, and I turn to present it to the next of kin. This single tear rolls down my cheek.
Wow.
And I'm, ma'am, on behalf, and I start to say my spiel and pass the flag. And she looks at me, and she looks at the tear, and she nods knowingly, knowing that I am emotional with her. And I think it worked out well because I think she appreciated
it touched
that.
her, yes.
But I wasn't crying. I was not crying. It was the wind.
Oh, well, I was in the Marine Corps, and we don't even know what crying is.
Right.
We don't know what that is.
Right.
So
It's what you feel when you realize you weren't in the Army. That's what crying is.
oh, is that what it is?
Yeah, you feel that every once in a while.
Oh, man.
No, I don't believe in crying.
Oh, okay.
No. I just cry for you guys because y'all had to go to the Army. But that's the only tears I cry. I'm sad for you. Well, that's an amazing career.
Yeah. So during that time, I was moving and shaking and doing good things in that position, and the regimental commander approached me and said, "Hey, we have some use for you down at the tomb of the unknown soldier. The leadership is heading out, and you've been identified as somebody I want down there."
Wow.
I just out of the blue. I wasn't expecting it. I didn't try out or anything. So packed up my stuff and headed down there and started training, and that was interesting. while I was the sergeant of the guard, I was also going through training. So my subordinates, which were professional on the job and still needed leadership,
Right.
we'll say, were my critics. They would critique me. So that was a very challenging dynamic.
I bet. Very different.
Yeah.
Very different. So did you actually ever walk the tomb?
So I was a changer.
Okay.
So once you make a certain rank, you transition to changer unless they need somebody to walk,
I got you.
which is rare. So I was a changer, which was the guy that inspected and flipped the rifle and
I got you.
gave the spiel to the crowd, to the audience before the guard change.
Okay. Okay. Wow. That's a neat way to walk out.
It was it was an honor to walk the plaza. Absolutely, a lot of history, not only just at the tomb, but learned a lot of stuff about Arlington and the history of that whole area.
What is the tomb for our listeners? We're all military, and I still want my question about the 1911s answered.
It's coming.
But what is the tomb of the unknown soldier?
So, after World War I, I believe the British had a tomb for their unknowns because a lot of service members were never found. They were never able to be identified. So they had a lot of unmarked graves and a lot of families who just didn't know where their loved one was. So the British started one, and then I believe it was groups of mothers around America writing Congress saying we would like one also for our fallen sons and husbands. So finally accepted and planned on creating one. So they found a spot in Arlington. The way they selected the unknown soldier for World War I is they went to a battlefield cemetery in Europe, and they had a highly decorated service member go to Europe. They disinterred 4 sets of remains and put him in a chapel, and he had this spray of flowers, and he was tasked with choosing which one of these 4 would be the unknown soldier, and they picked these 4 from different battlefields around Europe. And he walked around the caskets a few times and then laid his spray of white roses on this one particular casket. And in his memoirs later on, he wrote, he just felt his buddy saying, this is me, this is your buddy. And so that's why he chose that one. And so they reinterred the other caskets and shipped this one service member back to the States. There was a big funeral for the unknown that was selected, and a lot of America showed up. You can look online and see how packed Arlington Cemetery was with people wearing black. Everybody showed up because this could have been their loved one. And so that's what it represented. Everybody came to have that catharsis. Our loved one made it back home. He has this high honor, and he's buried here in Arlington. And initially, the marker was just a large slab, basically, a low, flat tabletop. And over the years, people would come and America used to have a decoration day
Right.
what was it, Decoration Day, right?
Day.
And they would come to the cemetery, put flags, and have dinner or lunch with their loved one, their lost loved one. And over the years, people would see this slab, and sometimes they would stand on it to take pictures, and they would get reprimanded for that. So this is actually a burial site,
Right.
and then the security guards would do that, and then eventually there was a permanent guard, paid guard, to monitor that area because it was so popular. It's a great vista overlooking the Potomac. And then I believe it was a cavalry unit that took over, started guarding it, and then eventually the old guard started guarding it. And they've been guarding it 24 hours a day, I'm going to say since 1932.
Wow. I've watched them do the ceremonial wreathing every year, and I've always, as a Marine, I've always found just the perfection of the movement impressive, and the solemnness and the stoicism of those men who are guarding. I can remember when I was younger, I could sit there and just watch them. It's like, how do they do that? But I'm ADHD. I couldn't stand still for a minute, but they can just. I loved just the beauty of it. To me, it was beautiful. And then you put into the emotional side and the representation and the honor, and all of that, and then you begin to think about the men and the women who have given their lives, and we don't know where they are.
Yeah.
There were huge amounts of POWs during Vietnam.
Right.
They're still MIAs on paper.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we all know that they no longer exist, but all of that, to me, is part of what makes what we do militarily powerful. As we've sat here and really discussed and looked at an amazing career, culminating with probably an extremely high honor, because not very many men or women, or I don't even know if women do that particular aspect. I would think at this time in history they probably do.
I think there have been 4 or 5.
Okay. But it's definitely a high honor, I think. What do you take away from that opportunity, that experience, and then we can get into something else?
Humbleness, knowing that I'm still here and they aren't, from different eras, but they died in battle. They died during war. And a natural, innate reverence, because they are unknown. So I drift towards them having accomplished a lot more than I have, because you might as well think of them as being the finest soldier America's ever seen. It's a natural, innate reverence.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for doing it. Appreciate it. Really do.
It was fun.
Yeah.
So before we move on from that, I'm a gun nerd. I'm a firearms, a pew enthusiast.
Sure.
And an amateur by any means. But these 1911s, man, I read somewhere that they're engraved and they have certain characteristics engraved on them. They're named, I guess, if you will. Could you speak on that?
Sure. So the service pistol, whatever the U.S. Army's service pistol is what the Tomb Guards carry, what the Changer carries. And when I was there were 2 Berettas, M9 Berettas, and they had engravings on them. One of them was named Silence, and the other was Respect. And if you look at the signs around the tomb, it asks you to remain or maintain silence and respect. So that's where those two names came from, is the request of that area around the tomb. And when the army was drifting towards the new SIG,
Right.
I reached out to my commander to see if he would reach out to SIG to see if they would make custom-made service pistols, since the army was drifting towards the SIG. They came back and said, absolutely, we'd love to knock Beretta out of the way and provide our own. We don't want you to have those. Those pistols are very, very pretty. We will best that. So they'd come down a couple times and brought schematics, and I talked with all the other tomb guards, and we gave our input on what was important for us, what we would like to see on it. We didn't want them gaudy. We didn't want to have them bedazzled.
Right.
But we wanted certain
Classy.
very, very subtle, professional looking, shiny pistols. Yeah. And I had asked about the magazine capacity, and they said that they had an extended magazine, which would be 21 rounds, and the number 21 is a very important number for Arlington and tomb guards. They walk 21 steps, wait 21 seconds, so on and so forth. So having an extended magazine from SIG that has 21 rounds was perfect. These two pistols are named also. They have on the slide, they have different meanings and different symbols from the tomb, from the capstone of the tomb. And they look very nice.
And where do they keep these?
They are kept at the tomb, in the quarters underneath the tomb.
Okay.
So I say at the tomb, but there's the ready quarters, and there's a couple bunks down there that aren't used. But they're kept under the amphitheater in Arlington. Wow. And they're cleaned and polished, and before and after every mission, every change.
So going back to your deployments, you have multiple deployments. And then you said one of your assignments in Germany was with
DTRA.
Yes.
Yep, DTRA.
I didn't want to screw that up. What is that?
DTRA is the Defense Threat Reduction Agency, and they're an umbrella organization that covers a lot of things. Different treaties that America is a signatory of. You have the Vienna Document. You have CFE, which is the Conventional Forces in Europe Treaty. You have nuclear non-proliferation. You have nuclear non-proliferation.
Say that 10 times fast.
Yeah, there's a lot of. You have anti-nuke treaties, trying to draw down the amount of nuclear weapons that are in everybody's stockpiles. That's part of it. You have overt intelligence gathering with flyovers. Russia, before, I'm not sure if they do this anymore, they backed out of a lot of treaties right before they invaded Crimea. But you have a lot of flyovers that happen just to provide openness and transparency. If you have for instance, if you have a large exercise and you have 7,000 troops and tanks and helicopters, this, that, the other, and it just so happens to be near the border of another country, rather than that other country seeing this massive equipment moving towards the border and deciding that they need to move their equipment, and then this country saying, well, good thing we were training, because now we have all our stuff there, but we're going to bring more. And rather than have
Right.
it compile and or compound and become something it never was,
It's a massive pissing contest.
right?
Yeah.
There's an openness. So all the signatories say if we have an exercise that consists of 3,000 or more troops, we're going to let everybody in this treaty know, and you're invited to come watch it. You can send 2 delegates from your military. That's just one of the aspects. And so along with that, also, we as signatories can go to these other countries, kind of a pop quiz, give them 3 days notice,
Wow.
say, hey, we're going to come to your country in 3 days to check all of your to check certain holdings that you've reported. If they have 50 tanks in this one unit, maybe we're going to go make sure they have 50 tanks there.
Right.
Just to verify stuff. Trust but verify.
Verify.
That's the name of that game.
Yeah.
So we'll fly to their country and then say we're going to be in this region. And then once we show up, we're going to say we're going to be in this section of the region.
Right.
And then the next day, we're going to this specific unit. So it gives them a heads up, but not enough to really know where we're going to inspect.
But they know you're in country.
But they know we're coming.
Right.
Yeah.
That's good.
So did you notice any stark differences between Iraq and Afghanistan being deployed in both of those places?
Oh yeah. Yeah. So my first deployment was Kosovo, and that was a peacekeeping operation. There were a lot of patrols through valleys, a lot of radio checks, a lot of OPs listening to different areas, watching for traffic from Serbia coming into Kosovo. That was interesting. But it was more of a long range reconnaissance kind of mission for regular army. Nothing super special about it, but that's more of what it was like. And the first Iraq deployment was, I'm sure everybody who was there knows, it was cowboys and Indians. It was shoot if you're being shot at, and if you think you're going to be shot at, shoot them.
Rules of engagement definitely.
Yeah,
changed
grenades
over
down
time.
sewer covers.
Right.
Just why not? Why not? We're taking no risk. Republican Guard is trying to schwack everybody here, so let's get the drop on them. So that was a lot of fun. That first deployment was about 14 and a half months for me. I had 3 days of R&R in Qatar. That was, and I squeezed in a lot of R&R during those 3 days. Yeah. So that was a long deployment. And the second time, that was in 03 to 04.
What unit was that with?
That was with 1st AD, 1st Armored Division, and with 2-6 Infantry.
I deployed with 1st AD.
Yeah?
We relieved 3rd ID in
Yeah.
the country. And we felt
Right.
bad for those guys. You're like, man, you're getting extended. And then, well, you know the deal. So, 6 months turned into 12
Yep.
months, 12 months turned into 15 months. And you're just, after a certain, I hate to admit this, but after a certain time, you really don't care anymore about your personal safety.
Right.
You're at your wit's end.
It's the norm. It just literally gets
Right.
It's just the normal day.
Yeah, you're so desensitized
Right.
to everything.
You can't think about it all the time.
Right.
Because you start, and that's why you're desensitized.
Right.
It's you can't manage.
Right.
So you just say that's a screw it mentality. Like, okay, I've already almost died a few times.
Yeah.
Let me just kind of accept it in the back of my mind and just do the daily routine.
Hesitation kills, brother.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. So second tour to Iraq was in 08, 09. And that was up near the Sunni Triangle for me. The first one was in Baghdad, and then a little bit south of Baghdad. Second tour was near the Sunni Triangle. to Crit. We went to Saddam's hometown. We set up a base there for like a month. Did a lot of patrolling.
Yeah.
A lot of patrolling. Really, the second tour to Iraq, the first tour to Iraq was a lot of foot patrols. I was a corporal walking with one other dude in Baghdad, and we would walk 2 clicks to our little operating post with a radio.
Right.
Something happened to the radio one day, and we were just without radio. I said, well, okay, well, we can't do a radio check. I guess mission's over. This is 2 days later. We had enough batteries and everything, but decided not to stay. So we just walked back. On the way back, we passed a chicken stand. Okay, well, let's get something to eat. Took half an hour, and both of us were sitting with our backs deep in the place, looking at the front door, just eating
chicken,
Dajaj, having a good time, living it up in old Baghdad. Everybody was nice enough, but we were pretty edgy.
I would think so.
Pretty edgy.
Yeah.
Brother, you look back on some of these experiences and you're like, man, how am I still alive? Like, you remember driving, your parents driving a station wagon and like you like laying in the back seat or like up in the back window, no seat belt, no nothing.
Yeah.
You didn't care. You didn't know, and then, as a young troop, going over there as a young soldier, you're like, man, but I'm kind of blessed to be here still standing and breathing.
Yep. No, there was on one of those missions, I came down with a huge headache. It was my birthday, and I came down with a huge headache. My wife at the time, she had sent me 2 beers in the mail, and so I packed them in my ruck, and we went out on our mission. I figured, it's my birthday. I bring a couple of these beers. So me and this other guy, shout out to Ogris, O'Greasy. Me and this other guy went out, same thing, 2 dudes at a checkpoint, a couple clicks away. Not even a checkpoint, just an operating post, listening post. And we were stationed with 2 Iraqis. Came down with this huge headache and couldn't really operate or do anything. And he pulled out these 2 tablets. They look like Alka-Seltzers. Mm-hmm. And he said, no, and through our broken mimicry and mime translation, headache, he said, he pulled these things. No, he went to the store, came back, and he said, take 2 of these. And I'm thinking, like, do I? Is this guy going to kill me? Is this it? I had such a bad headache. I'm
going for it.
Screw it, right? So took him about 5 minutes. I don't know what was in these things. I don't know if it was pure caffeine or, some Peruvian blessed powder. I don't know what was in this stuff, but 5 minutes later, I was rip-roaring, ready to go.
Really?
Like, this is my birthday. Hey, where are those beers at? Let's get those beers. And I cracked open the beers. And as soon as I cracked open the first beer, that same guy pulled a couple bottle rockets out of his, or not bottle rockets, but the Roman candles out of his pack. And because he knew birthday. And he said, birthday? Yeah. And I handed him the beer. He took a swig of beer. I lit the Roman candles, shooting Roman candles, drinking beer with these 2 Iraqis, and I'm feeling good, man. It was a good time. So that sums up the first deployment. Except for a lot of the looting prevention. There's a lot of fun there. One of the things that stands out as pretty damn epic was, everybody's seen Oh Dark 30. If you haven't, you should. It's really
fantastic movie.
There's a scene in there where one of the characters calls out a guy's name, and the guy leans around the corner and he zips him right in the head, which is pretty cool. That happened, not that I didn't kill anybody, but that similar activity happened to me. We were going through one of the ministry buildings looking for looters. Everybody's looting at this point, still in wire and whatnot. And that was one of our tasks, is to stop looting. So we're in this dark stairwell. There's no electricity, no power in this 28-story building. And we were tracking some noises that we heard. And it was me and maybe 4 other guys. We're in this dark stairwell. Night vision doesn't work if there's no ambient light.
Right.
So I just flip those up and walking in this broken glass and debris in this stairwell. I thought I heard somebody whispering, and I yelled out, "Habibi, Habibi," or I whispered, "Habibi, la la la." And he turned the corner. Ta'al, like, come here.
Yeah.
And he started walking towards me, and as soon as I could see him, I grabbed him and pushed him up against the wall and like felt for any weapons or anything. Couldn't see. And I said, "Hey, I got one." Started coming back down, and this guy's freaking out. He's not even trying to get away. He's so freaked out that he's rigid, but he's going where I want him to go. And yeah, we get him back out into the light, and he's freaked out. But yeah, that little whisper
Got his attention.
"Habibi," got him out. So
Those little tricks, man.
Man, so Zero Dark 30, they got it from me. No, so that sums up the first deployment. The second deployment to Iraq was a lot of road patrols and just a more of IED avoidance. By this time, we were using the Rhinos and the different glow plug panels to set off the infrared actuators for the IEDs. We're using the mine-resistant ambush-protected vehicles, the MRAPs, and different styles of those. And a lot of patrols, a lot of just resupply. Yeah, I don't really know how to sum up that second deployment, what it was all about. Maybe just a maintenance. By that time, it was 6 years later.
Right.
So a lot of the initial fighting had stopped, and this is all IED stuff.
Right.
So a lot of clenched buttholes as we passed trash piles, and
Yep.
a lot of swerving around things, going off road, and yeah. Fortunately, I was never in a blast. Had friends who were. I came out relatively physically unscathed. I do not have a Purple Heart. I do not have an expert or an enemy expert marksmanship badge. IMT Bolo badge. I wasn't hit or anything.
You still got your baby face.
10 fingers and
looks
toes,
great.
Got 10
and
fingers,
the moneymaker.
toes, and the
Yeah.
That's good.
Afghanistan. The difference between Afghanistan and both Iraqs was a lot more foot patrol, a lot more mountainous, dismounted tactics. So looking for that next bit of cover, trying to maintain the high ground, which was not very often. Looking for high ground that could have potential enemy positions in it, which were everywhere.
Right.
So there was a constant sense of, oh, we're screwed. Like everywhere you go. A lot of indirect fire from direct fire weapons. They would use like anti-tank, anti-vehicle rockets, or SPG-9, which is a direct fire weapon, but they would fire them from the mountains around us, and they would land like mortars.
Lob 'em on you.
Yeah. A lot of injuries from those for my fellow unit members. Yeah. Shout out to the Wolfhounds, 227. Yeah, my favorite unit, the best unit was 227 out of my whole career. The old guard, yes, it's very reverent, but camaraderie and soldierism,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Knuckle dragon, barrel chested, tough dudes that had a really good time on their off time. Yeah. So a lot of so Afghanistan had a lot of that. I was tasked with, so I was the battalion commander's PSD, and I was with a platoon in Bastard Company. Yeah, Bastard. Loved it. Every time the first sergeant would call us to attention, we'd yell out, "Bastards!"
Yeah.
It was epic, epic. First time I heard that, I was taken aback,
Yeah.
and I fell right in line. I loved it. Very irreverent. So right, I would say a couple of months before deployment, my sergeant major hit me up and said, "Look, we want you. You've been identified as the guy we want for this." One of those things again. And and I said, "Sergeant Major, I would prefer not to. I've been working with this platoon. We went to NTC. We did all this training together. I've got us where I want us to be.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm working with this platoon leader well. Everything's driving. I would rather not." He said, "Well, you don't have a choice in it. You're doing it. Like, I want you to protect our battalion commander."
So we call voluntold.
Oh, I was voluntold
Voluntold.
harshly. And he said, "But I will give you this one option. You can incur a platoon leader. He's going to be a good lieutenant, but he's going to be a lieutenant nonetheless, to be a platoon leader, which will take care of a lot of the paperwork, a lot of the staff meetings, a lot of the orders.
Okay.
Or you can go without, and you can do all that stuff." And that was a tough choice. So I can either do paperwork
Or have somebody else stood for?
or train somebody how to be a platoon leader in a combat zone 2 months after we meet.
Right. Right.
And I really hate paperwork. Nobody likes writing evaluation, NCOERs, and doing staff meetings or writing a con op. Like, nobody likes doing that stuff, except for lieutenants. They're bred that way. But not me. I just want to jump in a ditch and shoot people, right? So I chose to not have a platoon leader, just to do it myself. I thought it would enhance the possibility of dumb moves downrange.
Gotcha.
I felt more comfortable with my judgment as a 12-year veteran at this point. Yeah, I had a lot more experience, so I trusted myself.
Right.
And I knew a couple of the guys that were going to be voluntold to go to the personal security detachment with me.
Right.
And they were solid guys. Young, but very hua.
Right.
Very gung-ho. And
Hoorah for you Marine types.
Yeah.
yeah, yut,
Gotcha.
yeah, hoorah. So met my platoon members that afternoon, the next day, whenever it was, and we began to train. We began to train with the 60 millimeter mortar. That was kind of point of contention for a couple of them, because we would stay beyond the required time. We'd stay past 1700 sometimes.
Yeah.
But I thought it was important enough to do that close to deployment. I really tried to give them their time off because we were so close to deployment, but more sweat and training, less blood and battle was my
Right.
philosophy.
Absolutely.
Right.
And they understood it. And of course they're going to gripe and complain a little bit. If a soldier ain't hungry or complaining, there's something wrong, right? There's so hungry, complaining, or tired. There's something wrong for the younger enlisted. But it was a good group of dudes, and we really got some good training in beforehand, got downrange, and our platoon was not only tasked with providing transportation and protection for the battalion commander and the battalion sergeant major, but we were, a few months into it, we were assigned to partner with Afghan Border Patrol, Afghan Police, Afghan National Army. So we were making contact and having key leader engagements with these groups and individuals that they thought were important in the region.
Right.
To build rapport with them and to help them, to train them, which was another challenging thing. You'd show them a map, and he started off talking about GPS. Well, what is GPS? Well, it's a device that connects to a satellite. Well, what's a satellite? Oh, geez.
Gonna be a long day.
Okay, well, it's a metal thing flying around the earth, falling around the earth, right? Well, how does it stay up there? I eventually just said, it's tied on with a string. And fortunately, none of them asked me what the string was tied on to. So it stopped right there, and that answered that question. So I was able to continue with land navigation. And a couple of those guys were Muj. They were Mujahideen. They had fought the Russians.
Right.
They had the star belt buckles that they had taken as war trophies. They had,
These were tough dudes.
these were tough dudes. At least the commanders were.
Yeah.
And so respect is given where it was due, and those dudes had some good stories. And they shot it straight with me too. They said, you're going to be gone in 9 months. I appreciate, what we have here, but your policies really don't mean anything to me in the long term.
Right. That's their home.
Yeah. So they were very, they were poignant and direct about it, and common sense. So the upper leadership seemed more educated and able to communicate on a sophisticated level.
Right. So we had talked about how experiences change over time. Different generations, different experiences we've had in service. Whether Chris was on the show previously, and Chris, and retired sergeant major, a couple deployments under his belt.
Oh yeah, Chris.
And man, just how leadership can change and basically make or break you. It can determine the climates in that environment, the priorities.
Yep.
And of course, that's changed over time as well. Looking back, you got all these, military recruitment numbers are down. Marines are still meeting their quota. Army recruitment numbers are down. Navy, Air Force. I think the other one that's up there is Space Force. Right? Sounds cool. I want to shoot an alien. But
door gunner to the International Space Station.
Yes.
right, Starship Troopers, man.
I'm there.
What would you give? Like, what advice would you give to a young person, man or woman, wanting to join the military? Maybe some lessons learned. There's such a nobody wants to serve anymore. And there's such a political divide where service is almost demonized in some aspects. We talk about this all the time. You're still fit to fight, brother. And I try to stay that way as well.
Right.
You don't have to get ready if you stay ready.
Yep. You never know when the balloon's going to go up. So,
and that's just something that is ingrained in us as a warrior, that warrior spirit. What advice do you have for them?
Join for a short period of time. Give it a shot. If you really don't think you're going to like it, join the Coast Guard. Not to slight on the Coast Guard, but like you're not going to get deployed to Afghanistan, being a coastie. You'll still get the rigidity of military lifestyle. It's a great challenge. Even if you decide to join the Marines or the Army or Navy, Air Force, Space Force, whatever, do it for a short period of time if you have doubt, because you're gonna the benefits that you're gonna get from it far outweigh the time away from whatever career you've put on hold or whatever career you're striving towards. You'll be able to come back in 4 years, 3 years maybe, with different perspectives, and some great experiences for yourself. You'll have the military doesn't give you discipline; it gives you opportunities to show that you have discipline. Every formation, you're there 15 minutes early, or you're not. That's on you. And the more you work out that discipline muscle, the stronger it gets, and that'll carry over into other activities in your daily life. Expect to, in today's modern climate, expect there to be a heavy emphasis on how special everybody is and how our differences give us strengths, which is complete garbage. You expect those things to happen. Expect to have a lot of classes on why Sally having 2 daddies is more important than Battle Drill 6. And if you go into that knowing that today's military is trying to kowtow or trying to placate the rest of society, and you won't be disappointed when you actually go through it. And all of these tactics and all of these techniques and all of these leadership classes you can find online. So I would say join. If you've always wanted to be a Marine, but you're worried about them allowing males to wear fingernail polish and makeup, join the Marines and be the Marine that you want to be. If you want to join the Army, join the Army. Go infantry so you can experience some hardship, or join the Army as a cook and then stay hard and stay tough and try out for special forces. There's all these avenues that you can go down that will benefit you. And if you approach it with the idea of only doing 4 years, you can come out of that and start your own business. There's all kinds of benefits. Yep. There's all kinds of, not only just for yourself, but for other people. Look at veterans. They say, "Oh, you served?" They automatically have an idea that you have discipline, you have respect, you have selfless service, you have some sort of leadership that they can benefit from. So all of these other soft skills that are required through military service are beneficial. So I would say join, even with today's modern climate, which I think is abhorrent.
Awesome. All right, guys. We're so excited that you came and you watched. We really need you to subscribe. We need you to press all the buttons that pop up on the screen, because I don't know what all is going to pop up, but we're going to try to pop up a bunch of stuff. I want you to subscribe, like, follow, whatever terms they use today. And we'll be part of this in your life for a long time. We've got some amazing things coming. We've already had some amazing things come and go, but we're going to continue to bring good characters, creative characters to the conversations that we have. Bear and I love to just see what's happening. So, Bear, it's been a great day.
Absolutely, Chip.
All right. See y'all next time on the Chaos Project.
Thank you, Blake.
See you, Blake.
Thank you.